All right, so today we're diving into AI design tools.
Okay.
And I think this is something that I know a lot of you are interested in because it's
Mm.
really changing the game for creatives.
Mm-hmm.
Not just like how fast we can work, but
Yeah.
also like how we think about design.
Yeah.
So I was reading about this tool called V0,
Uh-huh.
and honestly, I'm still kind of wrapping my head around it.
Well, what's really fascinating about V0 is that it's like a prime example of how AI is.
Hmm.
Shifting from being just a tool to generate content to like almost a partner in the design process.
Yeah.
It's not just creating images or writing copy, it's tackling like the structure and the functionality of design.
Right. Yeah, and the idea of interface cloning really caught my attention.
Yeah.
It sounds kind of like science fiction. Can you
Yeah.
break down how that actually works?
It's actually simpler than you might think. You basically upload a screenshot of any interface, like whether it's a website or an app, and then V0's AI analyzes that screenshot. It identifies all the elements, like buttons, text fields, images, you name it.
Okay.
And here's the kicker. It doesn't just create a static copy. It builds a functional prototype,
Wow.
complete with code like based on frameworks like React.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, I could take a screenshot of, say, a competitor's app,
Huh?
feed it to Zero,
Mm.
and get a working prototype that I can then like tinker with.
Exactly. And we're not just talking about tweaking the colors or the fonts. You can add new features. You can change the layout, really get under the hood and understand how that original design works.
That's incredible. That level of access is,
It's a powerful tool for learning, experimenting, iterating on ideas.
but I imagine there are limitations. Like how well does it handle really complex interfaces or like really unique design elements?
That's where the human element still comes in. While V0 is surprisingly accurate, it's not perfect. So if you're dealing with an interface that has, a lot of custom code or
Yeah.
very subtle visual nuances, you might need to do some manual tweaking to get it exactly right.
Oh, sure.
Think of it as like a starting point, a solid foundation that you can build upon.
Okay, so it's not a magic bullet,
Huh?
but it sounds like it could save designers a ton of time. We're
Yeah.
talking about cutting down the time it takes to build a prototype.
Ooh.
From days or even weeks to potentially just a few hours.
That's the potential, yeah. And that efficiency can have a ripple effect. Designers can focus on the more strategic, creative aspects of their work. Instead of getting bogged down in the technical details of building a prototype, they can spend more time thinking about the user experience, the overall flow, the emotional impact of the design.
Yeah, like almost like it frees up mental space for the more human aspects of design.
Right.
But what about accessibility?
Mm.
Does this mean you need to be like a coding expert to use V0?
Actually, that's one of the most exciting aspects of these AI tools. They're becoming increasingly user-friendly, even for people with limited coding experience. Vue, for example, it generates code. But you don't necessarily need to understand that code to use the prototype. It's more about understanding the design principles and being able to visualize what you want to achieve.
So this could potentially empower people who wouldn't traditionally consider themselves designers.
Exactly.
Like entrepreneurs or small business owners.
Yeah.
Who have great ideas, but might not have the technical skills to bring them to life.
Exactly. We're seeing a democratization of design, where more people have the tools and resources to participate in the creative process.
But doesn't that also raise some concerns? Like if everyone has access to these tools, could we end up with a flood of like generic or poorly designed content?
Mm-hmm.
And what about the potential for misuse, like cloning designs without permission?
Those are important questions, and they get to the heart of the ethical considerations that come with any powerful technology. On the one hand, you have this incredible potential for democratization and innovation, but on the other hand, you have the potential for misuse, for copyright infringement, and for devaluation of design expertise. It's a complex landscape that we need to navigate carefully.
Okay, so we've got this incredible tool that can potentially revolutionize the design process.
Mm-hmm.
But we also have these ethical considerations that we can't ignore. So let's unpack that a bit further. What are some of the specific challenges or concerns people have about using AI tools like V0? And what steps can be taken to address them?
One of the immediate concerns people have is about accuracy. AI is incredibly advanced, but it's not perfect.
Right, we talked about that. But how does that play out in the real world? Can you give me an example of where V0 might struggle?
Let's say you're trying to clone an interface. That has a lot of micro-interactions, like subtle animations or transitions that respond to user input. Those details can be tricky for AI to fully capture and replicate, so you might end up with a prototype that's structurally sound, but lacks that level of polish or refinement.
So it's almost like you get the bones of the design,
Yeah.
but you still need a human eye to add the flesh and make it come alive.
That's a great way to put it. Another area where V0 might struggle is with highly stylized or artistic designs.
Yeah.
If you're trying to clone an interface, that relies heavily on custom illustrations or unique typography. The AI might not be able to fully grasp those nuances.
So it's better at replicating structured,
Yeah.
functional designs rather than those that are more expressive or artistic.
Exactly. It's important to understand the strength and limitations of the tool and to use it accordingly. Now, when it comes to ethical considerations, one of the biggest concerns is copyright infringement.
Yeah, that's something I was thinking about. If you can clone any interface,
Mm-hmm.
how do you ensure that you're not stealing someone else's intellectual property?
That's a tricky issue. And there's no easy answer. There are legal precedents for copyright protection of software interfaces, but how that applies to AI-generated clones is still a gray area.
I think it comes down to intent and transparency. If you're using V0 to learn from a design, to understand its underlying structure and principles, that's one thing. But if you're using it to simply copy a design and pass it off as your own, that's clearly unethical and potentially illegal.
So it's about using these tools responsibly and ethically, not as a shortcut to plagiarize someone else's work.
Exactly. And I think transparency is key. If you're using an AI tool to create a design, be upfront about it. Don't try to hide the fact that you're using AI. Be clear about how you're using the tool and what role it played in the design process. That level of transparency can help build trust and avoid accusations of plagiarism.
That's a great point. It's about being honest about the process and giving credit where credit is due. Exactly. And I think it's important to remember that AI is a tool, not a replacement for human creativity. The best design work will always come from a collaboration between human and machine. We need to use these tools to augment our abilities, not to replace them.
So it's about finding that balance between leveraging the power of AI and preserving the human element of design.
Precisely. And I think that balance is constantly shifting as the technology evolves. It's a fascinating and dynamic landscape that we're only beginning to explore.
Yeah, it sounds like we're just scratching the surface of what's possible with AI design tools. And speaking of possibilities, in part 2 of this deep dive, I want to explore how these tools might impact the future of design.
Yeah, we'll delve into how AI might reshape job roles in creative industries, the potential for entirely new art forms, and the ethical considerations that we'll need to grapple with as this technology continues to evolve.
Sounds like we have a lot more to uncover. So stay tuned for part 2 of our deep dive into the world of AI design tools. Welcome back. I'm so glad we're continuing this conversation. We've been talking about V0, this incredible AI tool that can clone interfaces and generate code. But it feels like that's just the tip of the iceberg, right?
Oh, absolutely. V0 is a great example of what's possible, but it really is just one tool in a rapidly expanding ecosystem of AI design solutions out there.
So what else is out there? What are some other AI design tools that you think are particularly innovative or impactful?
One that comes to mind is Galileo AI. It's similar to V0 in that it uses AI to understand design, but instead of cloning interfaces, it actually generates designs from natural language descriptions.
Really?
You literally tell it what you want, and it creates a visual representation for you.
So I could design a landing page with a hero image, a call to action button, and 3 testimonial sections. And it would actually create a layout based on that.
Exactly. It's like having a design assistant who can understand your vision and translate it into a visual format. It's still in its early stages, but the potential is enormous. Think about how this could empower people who have great ideas but maybe aren't as skilled in visual design. They could simply describe what they want and let the AI handle the visual execution.
That's amazing. It really does feel like we're on the cusp of a major shift in how design is done and who can do it.
Absolutely, and this shift is happening across the entire creative spectrum. We're seeing similar tools for writing, music composition, even filmmaking. AI is becoming this partner in the creative process, augmenting human abilities and pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
So if AI is becoming this creative partner, how do you see that changing the role of the human designer? Are we all going to be replaced by robots?
That's the question a lot of people are asking, and I understand the concern. But I don't think AI is going to replace human designers entirely. Instead, I think it's going to change the nature of design work, the skills that are most valuable, and the way designers collaborate with technology.
So what does that look like in practice? How might the job of a designer change in the age of AI?
I think designers will need to become more strategic, more focused on understanding human needs and behaviors, and more adept at working in collaboration with AI. The technical skills of execution, like coding or using design software, will become less important, while the ability to think critically, to solve problems creatively, and to empathize with users will become even more crucial.
It sounds like the role of the designer is becoming less about pushing pixels and more about being a visionary, a strategist, almost like an architect of experiences.
Exactly. Designers will need to be able to articulate their vision to the AI, guide the design process, refine the output, and ensure that the final product meets the needs of the users and aligns with the overall goals of the project.
That sounds like a really interesting evolution of the role, one that requires a new set of skills and a different way of thinking about design.
Absolutely. And it's not just about individual designers. I think we'll see a shift in how design teams are structured and how they operate. We might see more specialized roles emerge, like AI design specialists, who focus on training and managing the AI tools, or design ethicists, who ensure that these tools are being used responsibly and ethically.
Yeah, that makes sense. As the technology becomes more sophisticated, we'll need experts who can understand its nuances and navigate the ethical considerations that come with it. But what about the creative process itself? How will AI change the way designers think and work?
I think one of the biggest changes will be the speed of iteration and experimentation. With AI tools, you can generate multiple design variations in a fraction of the time it would take to do it manually.
Wow.
This allows designers to explore a wider range of ideas, to test different concepts quickly, and to refine their designs more effectively.
So it's like having a brainstorming partner who can instantly visualize your thoughts.
Exactly, and this rapid iteration can lead to more innovative and unexpected design solutions. AI can help designers break out of their comfort zones, to challenge their assumptions, and to explore creative possibilities that they might not have considered otherwise.
So it's like AI could actually enhance human creativity, not just replace it.
I believe so. By taking care of the more mundane and repetitive tasks, AI can free up designers to focus on the higher-level creative thinking, the problem-solving, and the emotional connection. That makes design truly impactful.
Okay, so we've talked about how AI might change the role of the designer and the creative process. But what about the output? What kind of designs are we going to see emerging from this collaboration between human and machine? Will everything start to look the same?
That's a valid concern. There's a risk that if everyone is using the same AI tools, we might end up with a homogenization of design, where everything starts to look and feel similar.
Like a kind of cookie-cutter aesthetic where
Yeah.
originality gets lost in the algorithms?
Exactly. But I think there's also the potential for the opposite to happen. AI could actually help us discover new design styles, new aesthetics, and new ways of expressing ourselves visually. Remember, AI can process information and identify patterns in ways that humans simply can't. It can combine different styles, different genres, different cultural influences to create something truly unique and unexpected.
So it's not just about replicating existing designs. It's about pushing the boundaries of what's possible, about creating something that's never been seen before.
Exactly. And I think that's where the real excitement lies. AI has the potential to unlock a whole new world of creative possibilities, to inspire us to think differently, to see the world in new ways, and to create designs that are both beautiful and meaningful.
This is giving me a lot to think about. It feels like we're at a crossroads where we have this incredible technology that can either amplify our creativity or potentially diminish it. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it comes down to how we choose to use these tools. If we use them mindlessly, if we simply rely on them to churn out generic designs, then yes, we risk losing that human spark of creativity. But if we use them thoughtfully, if we use them as partners in the creative process, then I think we can achieve something truly extraordinary.
So it's about finding that sweet spot, that balance between human ingenuity and artificial intelligence, where we're leveraging the strengths of both to create something greater than the sum of its parts.
Exactly, and that's a journey we're all on together, as designers, as creators, and as a society.
Well, this has been a truly fascinating conversation. And I feel like we've only just begun to explore the potential of AI design tools. In part 3, I want to delve into some of the broader implications of this technology, particularly the ethical considerations that we need to be mindful of as we move forward.
Yeah, we'll discuss how AI might reshape the creative landscape, the potential for new art forms, and the challenges of ensuring that these powerful tools are used responsibly and ethically.
It sounds like a crucial conversation to have. So join us for part 3 as we continue our deep dive into the world of AI design.
Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive, and I feel like we've covered so much ground, from the specifics of how some of these tools work to like the bigger picture impact on the design world. But now I kind of want to zoom out even further and think about where all of this is headed. What does the future hold for design in the age of AI?
That's a big question.
Hmm.
And it's one that I think causes a lot of excitement, but also a bit of anxiety, to be honest, because the rate of advancement in AI is just incredible. Things that seemed like science fiction a few years ago are now like becoming reality.
Yeah, and it feels like those changes are happening so fast. Like we're living through a technological revolution
They
here.
are.
But focusing on the creative side of things, you talked about the emergence of new art forms. Like, what do you see happening there? Well, we're already seeing AI being used to create music that blends genres in ways that we never really imagined before. We're seeing it generate visual art that challenges our definition of beauty. We're even seeing AI write poetry and prose that blurs the lines between human and machine authorship. And honestly, this is just the beginning. As these AI systems become more sophisticated, they'll be able to process and synthesize information from a much wider range of sources. And I think that's going to lead to creative outputs that are truly novel and unpredictable.
It's like AI is becoming this creative collaborator, this partner that pushes us to think outside the box
Uh-huh.
and explore uncharted territory.
Yeah, and it's not about replacing human creativity, but about expanding our creative palette, opening up new avenues for expression.
But with all this potential comes a sense of responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about some ethical considerations, specifically around copyright issues. What other ethical challenges do we need to be thinking about as AI becomes more integrated into this whole creative process?
One of the biggest challenges that comes to mind is bias. Because AI systems are trained on massive data sets, and those data sets can reflect existing societal biases.
Right.
So if we're not careful, those biases can be amplified and perpetuated through these AI-generated designs.
Can you give me an example of that?
Sure, imagine an AI tool that's trained on a data set of primarily Western designs. It might struggle to generate designs that reflect the aesthetics and cultural nuances of other parts of the world, or it might inadvertently reinforce stereotypical representations of certain groups of people.
So it's not enough to simply develop these powerful AI tools. We have to develop them responsibly,
Right.
with awareness of the potential for bias
Right.
and a commitment to mitigating those biases.
Absolutely. And that requires ongoing dialogue and collaboration between developers, designers, ethicists, and the wider community. We need to be having open conversations about the values that we want to embed in these systems and the safeguards that we need to put in place to ensure that they're used ethically
Right.
and equitably.
It's not just about the technology itself. It's about the human values that guide its development.
Exactly. And another ethical consideration is the potential for AI to be used to create misleading or manipulative content.
Okay.
I mean, we've already seen examples of this with things like deepfakes. Videos that convincingly depict people saying or doing things that they never actually did. Imagine that same technology being used to create product designs that are intentionally deceptive or that exploit psychological vulnerabilities to
Right.
influence consumer behavior.
It feels like we're going to need some clear ethical guidelines
We will?
and potentially even regulations to ensure that AI is used responsibly. But let's shift gears a bit. We talked about the impact on individual designers and the emergence of new art forms. How do you see these AI design tools affecting the whole creative industries?
I think we're going to see a significant shift in power dynamics because as these design tools become more accessible and more user-friendly, the barriers to entry are going to lower. So this could lead to a surge in independent creators and small studios that could potentially challenge the dominance of, larger agencies and production companies.
Interesting.
We might even see a blurring of the lines between professional and amateur creators.
Right, because if anyone can create high-quality designs, what happens to the livelihood of professional creatives?
That's a real concern, and it speaks to the need for adaptation and upskilling within the creative workforce. Designers, artists, musicians, writers, we all need to embrace lifelong learning and develop new skills that complement the capabilities of AI.
So it's not about competing with the machines. It's about learning to collaborate with
Yep,
them.
exactly. It's about leveraging their strengths while also honing our own unique human abilities.
So we're looking for that sweet spot, that synergy between human and machine.
I think so.
This has been such a fascinating conversation. We've explored so many different facets of this topic. What's the one key takeaway that you want to leave our listeners with?
The future of design is a collaboration. It's a partnership between human ingenuity and artificial intelligence. And the most exciting creations will come from those who can embrace this partnership and leverage the strengths of both human and machine to create something truly innovative and meaningful and hopefully beautiful.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive, and thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in. Until next time.